I'm Jay Prassel. I'm the VP of Marketing here at SolidFire. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us here at Arista and to spend some time with myself, with Dave Wright, our founder and CEO, and Adam Carter, who's in the back of the room there, who's our Director of Product Management. We have actually a pretty interesting history with Tech Field Day. We had joined this process a couple of years ago, and Dave actually took a lot of time at that Tech Field Day to actually do a deep architecture dive on our product for the attendees. And it actually became one of the most viewed videos that we have both on our website, and it's something that we hear from just about every individual who comes to SolidFire, that they had the opportunity to kind of listen to that video, to see Dave go very in-depth about the technology, and it actually had a huge impact on them joining SolidFire at the time. So we're actually going to take that a couple steps further today. We've got an agenda out in front of you. We're going to do a little update on the company, the financials, where SolidFire is headed. But we're actually also going to take some time, get into the new operating system that we brought to the table, OS 6, which we codenamed Carbon. And we're also going to get into a little bit of a competitive deep dive. We're going to take the covers off our technology. We're going to take the covers off Pure Storage technology. We're actually even going to take the covers off Extreme I/O technology. In a very, very deep way, but also in a way that we're going to try and ride the even line as much as we possibly can. And Dave's going to be your guide as we go through that today. I think you'll find it extremely interesting. It's something that we spent time doing with Stephen and a number of the other folks that attended our Analyst Day at the end of February. So with that, I want to thank you all again for taking the time to join us. Thanks to you, to all of you on the web who are following us live. And we'll hand it over to Dave, and we'll get started. Thanks again.
All right, thanks a lot, Jay. And that is the end of the marketing presentation.
That's
so
right.
Now we can get to the good part.
Hey!
So we are going to start with a quick overview of the company, the problem we're trying to solve, and a little bit about the product, simply because some of the folks in here, and certainly a lot of the people online, are new to SolidFire. And it's important to not just talk about how cool the technology is and how great the architecture is, but put it in really the context of the problem that we're trying to solve, the customers we're trying to serve, and so that you can really understand what it is we're trying to do at SolidFire. We'll try to keep that to a minimum, and I've got like 40 minutes of that stuff up front, but if we can do it in, say, 25, then we're going to have more time at the end. We can do a bonus demo and some other fun stuff. So we'll try to get through that stuff pretty quickly. So, fundamentally, if you look at the problem SolidFire is trying to solve, and this is something that was talked about a lot at the SDDC symposium earlier this week, it's this idea that, look, enterprise IT is under increasing pressure. And if you look at where this pressure is coming from, a lot of it is coming from what's happening out in the public cloud and the benchmark that's being set for agility, efficiency, cost effectiveness. And these guys can't necessarily go and put all of their applications in the public cloud, but the expectations are being raised by their internal developers, by their internal business users, to be able to deploy applications and services faster, get a more agile, scalable infrastructure, increase performance and predictability, get to automation and user self-service, and raise operational efficiency. And this is not an overnight thing. This is, as we talked about, a little bit aspirational. It's a bit of a journey. It's something that really started 10 years ago with virtualization coming into the data center and greatly increasing efficiency on the compute side. But there's a much broader movement to do it across the entire stack now, across compute, networking, and storage. And what we're seeing is that in a lot of cases, the storage piece is really holding people back. Traditional enterprise storage is not well suited to a lot of the things that people are wanting to do in this new data center to get to a more scalable, agile, efficient infrastructure. And it's something that I ran into first person when I was at Rackspace, which is where I was prior to starting SolidFire. How we were redesigning our data centers around cloud computing technologies, around multi-tenancy, around scale out. Traditional enterprise storage was really a roadblock to some of the things we're trying to do. And at the time, before I started SolidFire, I looked at a lot of the startups and what they were trying to do. And what we saw is that there were a lot of startups out there, particularly in the flash space, but they were primarily focused on performance and solving performance problems. And performance is certainly part of the issues that enterprises are dealing with, but it's not the entire thing. And it's really, at the end of the day, a relatively small part of the overall picture. And SolidFire is obviously focused on increasing performance, but also delivering very unique capabilities in storage, things that are very unique in both flash systems as well as disk-based systems, to be able to solve for and help with some of these other challenges in what we call the next generation data center. If you look at who is deploying and using SolidFire today, we have a very well-known reputation in the cloud and service provider space. We got our start there. We focused very strongly on it out of the gate based on my experience at Rackspace and based on the fact that literally every service provider and telco on the planet right now is redoing their infrastructure to be able to deploy cloud capabilities and cloud service, both infrastructure, platform, as well as software services. And we have literally dozens of small and mid-size service providers that are using SolidFire in production. Yes, this is a NASCAR slide. I've got 3 of them.
That's one more than you're allowed.
Okay. But we are also seeing adoption of SolidFire at many of the large multinational service providers and telcos, guys like Internet, ViaWest, DataPipe, Savvis. And all of these folks have deployed SolidFire at the core of their infrastructure as a service offerings across multiple data centers, and I think with maybe one exception, in multiple continents. So we have SolidFire deployed in literally dozens of data centers in just this customer group alone, and we are running in production as the core of their storage offering for their infrastructure as a service. The other big thing, though, for us, and we've seen this really pick up over the last 6 months, is adoption of SolidFire in large-scale enterprises and particularly some of the web and internet companies. Folks like eBay, PayPal, EchoStar, Teradata, who are dealing with many of the same challenges that the service providers are, and in many cases trying to act more like a service provider internally, trying to get to this ideal of the software-defined data center and finding that storage is one of the things that's holding them up. Now, they could take one approach to that, which is to put an additional software layer on top of a lot of their legacy infrastructure. But particularly as they look for a cleaner approach going forward, they're turning to SolidFire to give them a platform that is much better suited to the needs of their next generation data center. If you look at the types of solutions and the types of platforms that are being used on SolidFire, this is kind of a mix of where our customers were at the end of the year. You can see the majority of our customers, well, not quite more than 50%, but the largest platform is VMware, not surprisingly. We see VMware in both the service provider as well as the enterprise space. Second is actually CloudStack. A lot of people may be surprised about that. CloudStack actually has a pretty heavy presence in the service provider realm, and that's where we're seeing a lot of adoption of it today. We also have a sizable OpenStack presence, and although there's no hard industry numbers on it, we think we probably power some of the largest OpenStack infrastructures in the world today based on some of those companies we showed there, as well as some other customers that we haven't been able to disclose yet. But SolidFire has a very solid presence in OpenStack. We've actually invested in OpenStack for about 2.5 years now on actually the development of OpenStack. We broke out the Cinder project out of Nova. We have a full-time engineer who is the PTL of the Cinder project and contributes to that project. And we are very bullish on OpenStack. We're a keynote sponsor for the next conference in May. And so you can certainly hear us talking a lot more about it at that time. In terms of SolidFire in the field with these customers, we've been in production deployments for 1.5 years. So this is something that has been around, has been deployed and tested. Relative scale of hundreds of systems, thousands of drives, petabytes of capacity running in production. We've proven out the non-disruptive capabilities of the system. Non-disruptive software upgrades, non-disruptive hardware upgrades, non-disruptive handling of failures. This has been proven literally hundreds of times in production. We've never had any data loss in a customer environment. That's something that probably won't last forever. I don't think any storage company that has been around for a while can ever say that. But I'm very proud of our quality coming out of the gate. Certainly for somebody who is a newer storage company, to go 1.5 years in some of these very demanding large-scale environments without any data loss is a huge achievement. We've also achieved greater than 5 nines data availability. So very, very few issues in production, and when there have been issues, the software has acted as expected to keep and continue having the system running. In terms of scale, we'll talk about the overall architecture and scale of the system, but we've got customers with over 20 node clusters in production, so very large scale clusters in production, and we regularly test with 40+ node clusters in our lab. So we have literally petabytes of capacity in a single cluster in our lab running on a regular basis. And our largest single customer has over 100 nodes deployed across multiple customers, or across multiple clusters and multiple data centers. So very, very large scale in terms of our actual deployments. Not going to read you all the numbers here. As I mentioned,
largest customer, more than 100 nodes. Each node, how is big?
How big are those? So that customer is a mix of nodes. Most of them are mid-sized nodes, which are about 34 terabytes effective capacity per node. So they've got petabytes of capacity in that 100 nodes. Again, our footprint is global. We've got customers in the US, Europe, Asia, and across all three of those geographies with their deployments. We just did an announcement about our opening of our Singapore office. Last part in the business, looking at our momentum in the last year, we're growing very quickly. We're certainly one of the fastest growing of the storage startups today. We grew our headcount 75% last year. We have over 225 employees right now. We are looking to have over 300 by the end of the year. Those that were at our Analyst Day, I think at the time we had about 180. So you can see we've been adding folks at a pretty quick clip. Our revenue is growing, 700% revenue growth last year, continuing to have very quick ramp in revenue this year. And this is another stat that's very important to us when we talk about the types of customers and types of deals that we do. We deal with large customers. We deal with large infrastructure. These are not point solutions dealing with point performance problems. Our average transaction is well over 250,000, and it's really been going up rather than down as we've introduced larger and larger systems. About a third of our revenue is from repeat purchases in the last year. So customers, as you would expect with a scale-out system, are buying more capacity, deploying it more, and deploying it in more locations. And we've had multiple customers. I think this is greater than 7. I think it's closer to 9 or 10 now that have gone over $1 million in total spend with us. So again, for a company that has only been around for about a year and a half, to have customers that are trusting us with this amount of their data and also this scale in their data centers is really important. And of course, we've raised money at a pretty good clip. We've raised $68 million to date. The last round was $31 million last summer.
Week.
Yeah, I know.
20 minutes.
But we're doing okay for what we need.